This might be the truck that finally makes Toyota's silence make sense. No one expected them to move this quietly on something this important. But now the pieces are genuinely starting to come together. You're watching Smart Reviews, and today, we're breaking down absolutely everything surrounding the 2027 Toyota Stout. And honestly, there's a genuinely fascinating story buried underneath all the noise here, one that most coverage either overhypes into fantasy or undersells into boredom. We're going to walk the middle path and give you the real picture. So, let's start with the name itself, because understanding where it came from genuinely explains why this comeback matters so much. Long before the Tacoma became the truck everyone associates with Toyota reliability, there was the Stout. A simple, tough little pickup that quietly helped establish Toyota's entire reputation for durability, decades before anyone had heard the words Hilux or Tacoma. It disappeared from American showrooms in the 1960s, replaced by the Hilux, and it's been sitting dormant in Toyota's history books ever since. And now trademark filings, supplier documents, and a genuinely consistent stream of industry reporting are all pointing toward the same conclusion. Toyota is bringing it back. And honestly, this is impressive, just from a storytelling perspective. Before we even get into a single spec, stay with me, because before we get excited, I want to set the tone properly for this entire video. A lot of what's circulating online about this truck right now spans an enormous range of credibility. Some of it is grounded, cross-reference reporting. Some of it is enthusiastic speculation dressed up to sound like a locked spec sheet. And some of it, honestly, reads like pure fan fiction with real Toyota badges photoshopped onto it. We're going to walk through all of it, tell you clearly what's genuinely plausible, and be upfront about what's not. Because building real trust with you matters more than getting you excited about numbers that might never be real. Let's start with why this truck exists in the first place, because the market context genuinely explains everything else. The compact pickup segment exploded almost overnight when the Ford Maverick arrived. Nobody expected it. Skeptics genuinely questioned whether a small, efficient truck could actually sell in meaningful volume. And then it did, dramatically delivering close to 150,000 units in some years, and essentially owning this entire category almost single-handedly. The Hyundai Santa Cruz carved out its own smaller, more style-focused niche alongside it, and Toyota, one of the largest truck manufacturers on the entire planet, has genuinely been sitting on the sidelines this whole time, watching, silent, building nothing to compete directly in this exact space. And that silence, honestly, started to feel almost painful for a lot of longtime Toyota fans. Because everyone knew Toyota could build something incredible here. The only real question was ever, when, not if. This is where it gets genuinely interesting though. Stay with me, because the platform story underneath this truck is honestly the most important technical detail in this entire conversation. Multiple credible sources converge on the same basic architecture story. Rather than a traditional body-on-frame setup like the Tacoma, the Stout is expected to ride on one of Toyota's modern TNGA unibody platforms, the same general family of architecture underpinning the RAV4, and potentially the Corolla Cross for smaller configurations. And weight choice genuinely changes everything about how this truck would feel to actually own and drive. Because a unibody platform means the Stout can skip the extra weight and bulk of a traditional body-on-frame setup entirely, making it genuinely lighter, more agile, and far more fuel-friendly than a traditional pickup ever could be. Yet it's genuinely no pushover either. Reports suggest the reinforced chassis is specifically tuned to handle real payloads and towing duties, not just daily commuting around town. And here's the detail most people are genuinely missing. This shared platform approach means genuine parts compatibility with Toyota's existing lineup, easier servicing at dealerships nationwide, and a genuinely more car-like ride quality day-to-day. Daily commuting genuinely shouldn't feel like bouncing around in a toolbox, while the Stout still delivers real muscle when you actually need it for a weekend project or hauling gear. Most people are missing this next detail too, and honestly, it's the detail that separates credible reporting from wishful speculation. Because the RAV4 is genuinely one of the best-selling vehicles on the entire planet, and its architecture has been refined across millions of units, tested across dozens of different global markets, and genuinely proven in real-world conditions for years. That's not a small thing. Could there be genuine engineering challenges adapting a crossover platform into a pickup body? Absolutely, honestly. But starting with something this solid genuinely beats engineering an entirely new solution from scratch. And Toyota already has exactly that sitting quietly in their back pocket, ready to adapt. Now let's talk about what's probably under the hood, because this is genuinely where the story splits into multiple credible directions and where you need to pay close attention to avoid getting swept up in the most exciting number rather than the most realistic one. The most consistent, cross-referenced reporting points toward Toyota leaning heavily on its proven hybrid technology, specifically the same general hybrid system already powering the current RAV4. That system pairs a 2.5-liter four-cylinder Atkinson cycle engine with electric motor assistance, and in the RAV4 itself, it produces somewhere around 226 horsepower on front-wheel drive configurations, or 236 horsepower with the added rear electric motor on all-wheel drive versions. If Toyota adapts that same proven combination into the Stout with minimal changes, that gives us a genuinely grounded starting point for performance expectations, rather than a number pulled entirely from speculation. And wait, here's where the efficiency story gets genuinely exciting, because Toyota is reportedly targeting real, meaningful gains over the Ford Maverick specifically. The Maverick's hybrid currently rates around 42 miles per gallon in the city. Toyota is reportedly aiming to beat that number, targeting somewhere in the 40+ mile per gallon range combined, which would be genuinely remarkable for any pickup truck currently sold in America. And honestly, this is impressive because Toyota already has genuine, decades, deep experience building exactly this kind of efficient hybrid system. This isn't some rushed first attempt at electrification. This is Toyota doing what it already does exceptionally well, just wearing a different body style. Stay with me, because this next part is genuinely where the story gets more complicated, and where I want to be extra careful about separating credible reporting from enthusiast fantasy. Because alongside that grounded hybrid story, there's a genuinely wide range of much more dramatic powertrain claims circulating online too. Some sources describe a turbocharged hybrid variant potentially producing anywhere from 270 to 320 horsepower, with sub-6-second zoo to 60 times and a dedicated GR Sport performance trim developed by Toyota's Gazoo Racing division. Others describe a plug-in hybrid variant with roughly 320 combined horsepower and around 40 miles of pure electric range, similar to what the RAV4 Prime already offers today. And honestly, these specific numbers deserve real skepticism. They're plausible in the sense that Toyota does have RAV4 Prime technology sitting on the shelf that could theoretically be adapted, but treating a sub-6-second GR Sport compact truck as a locked, confirmed configuration would genuinely be getting far ahead of the actual evidence available right now. Toyota has not confirmed a GR Sport Stout. Toyota has not confirmed a 320 horsepower plug-in hybrid variant. These remain genuinely speculative possibilities built on reasonable extrapolation from Toyota's existing technology, not confirmed specifications. This could genuinely be a risky move for anyone covering this story without making that distinction clear, honestly, because setting buyer expectations around a sub-6-second performance truck, when the more grounded, consistently reported version of this truck centers on efficiency and practicality instead, sets people up for genuine disappointment when the real reveal eventually happens. So let's stay grounded and talk about towing and payload, because this is genuinely where the Stout's actual mission becomes clear. Early coverage consistently suggests Toyota is optimizing this truck for everyday utility rather than chasing headline-grabbing towing numbers that would put it in direct competition with the Tacoma. Speculative but consistent numbers place towing capacity somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 pounds, roughly matching the Ford Maverick's available towing package, and payload capacity somewhere in the 1,000 to 1,400-pound range, typical for this compact segment. These aren't going to be class-leading numbers, and they're genuinely not trying to be. They represent solid, genuinely useful capability for buyers who prioritize efficiency and maneuverability over maximum hauling capacity, the exact same formula that made the Maverick successful in the first place. Most people are missing this next detail too, and it deserves real attention, because to maximize payload and practicality, Toyota is reportedly seriously considering a two-door cab paired with a genuinely long bed. The kind of straightforward, no-nonsense configuration that old-school truck buyers have been asking for. More bed space means genuinely being able to toss in full sheets of plywood without playing creative Tetris every single trip to the hardware store, or loading up bulkier gear without worrying about the tailgate hanging open awkwardly the whole drive home. Now let's talk design, because this is honestly where the visual story is the most consistent across nearly every source we've reviewed, which actually gives it more credibility than the more speculative powertrain numbers. Picture a wide, confident front end with a bold grille, sharp LED headlights, and a stance that reads noticeably tougher than a typical crossover, based compact pickup. Multiple sources independently describe a design language that nods toward the Tacoma without directly copying it. Muscular fenders, short overhangs improving approach angles for light off-road use, and a bed that flows naturally out of the cabin, rather than looking bolted on as an afterthought. Around the back, expect a clean, functional tailgate, vertical or full, with LED tail lighting depending on which report you're reading, and simple, confident badging spelling out the Stout name, without unnecessary chrome or clutter. And honestly, this is impressive, because nothing about this design direction looks like it's trying to reinvent the wheel. Buyers in this segment consistently want something that looks tough and useful, not a design experiment that looks like it escaped a motor show stage. Toyota's designers appear to genuinely understand their brief here: restraint over excess, purpose over performance. For its own sake, stay with me, because the interior story here genuinely surprised a lot of people covering this truck closely, and it's honestly one of the more consistently reported details across multiple independent sources. Because compact trucks have historically let people down the most right here, inside the cabin. You know that feeling of climbing into a small truck and immediately noticing cheap plastics everywhere. A cramped back seat that feels like a genuine afterthought. Well, Toyota's recent lineup has completely rewritten that story across the board. Look at the newest Tacoma. Look at the RAV4. Materials feel genuinely upgraded. Technology feels current rather than dated. If the Stout follows that same philosophy, and multiple sources genuinely suggest it will, we could be looking at a compact truck cabin that actually feels premium rather than punishing to spend time in. Expect a large central touchscreen, with estimates ranging from around 10.5 inches up to a genuinely substantial 14 inches on higher trims, supporting wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard equipment. A fully digital driver display should replace traditional analog gauges, letting you customize exactly what information sits directly in your line of sight. Physical climate controls appear likely to remain in place too, which genuinely matters more than it sounds, because anyone who's fought with a car bearing basic temperature adjustment inside a laggy touchscreen menu will genuinely appreciate Toyota keeping that simple. Rear seat space is genuinely expected to be a highlight here, as well, with multiple sources describing generous legroom that would let real adults sit comfortably in the back seat, not folded up like origami on every single drive. Most people are also missing this detail, and honestly, it deserves more attention than it usually gets, because Toyota's approach here seems to reflect genuine customer research rather than pure engineering assumption. Multiple sources describe Toyota interviewing thousands of pickup owners across different markets, specifically to understand what they actually wanted. And reportedly, the answers weren't giant touchscreens or unnecessary luxury gimmicks. Most buyers simply wanted a dependable truck that could handle work during the week, family duties in the evening, and outdoor adventures on the weekend, without breaking the bank in the process. If that customer first philosophy genuinely shows up in the final production truck, that's honestly a more meaningful signal about long-term satisfaction than any single spec on a sheet. Safety remains one of Toyota's genuine strongest selling points across its entire lineup, and the Stout is expected to continue that tradition without cutting corners. The latest Toyota Safety Sense suite is expected to come standard across most or all trims, including adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assistance, automatic emergency braking, pedestrian detection, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and traffic sign recognition. These features have become nearly standard across Toyota's broader lineup already, and expecting the same baseline safety suite on a brand new compact truck launching in 2027 is genuinely one of the safer predictions in this entire story. Wait, it gets even better when you consider some of the more thoughtful practical touches multiple sources agree on, because reporting consistently describes genuinely clever storage solutions throughout the cabin, hidden compartments beneath the rear seats, storage bins built into the bed walls to keep smaller items from sliding around, multiple tie-down points, and available power outlets capable of running tools or camping equipment directly off the truck. These details genuinely suggest Toyota consulted actual truck users during development, rather than just designing what engineers assume people wanted in isolation. This is where it gets genuinely interesting though, because now let's talk pricing. And honestly, this is where the story gets the most fragmented across different sources, which is genuinely worth understanding rather than glossing over. Some reporting suggests a starting price somewhere in the low to mid $20,000 range, roughly $23,000 to $25,000 for base trims, specifically positioning the Stout as a genuine value disruptor aimed at undercutting the Maverick directly on price. Other reporting suggests a considerably higher starting point, somewhere between $28,000 and $35,000, positioning the Stout as more of a premium, tech-loaded compact pickup competing on refinement rather than pure affordability. And still other coverage lands somewhere in between, suggesting a base price around $25,000 to $30,000 with higher trims, including a potential TRD off-road package, climbing into the low $40,000 range once fully optioned. But here's the thing, and this is genuinely worth sitting with for a moment rather than rushing past. These aren't just slightly different roundings of the same underlying rumor. They represent genuinely different strategic directions Toyota could take with this truck entirely. One version positions the Stout as a genuine value champion, competing purely on price to steal buyers away from Ford as aggressively as possible. The other version positions it as a premium, tech-forward compact pickup competing on refinement and interior quality instead, closer to how Toyota typically prices its RAV4 and Tacoma lineups. And honestly, that inconsistency across different sources tells you something genuinely important. Nobody currently covering this truck has locked in, confirmed pricing information. What we're actually seeing spread across dozens of videos, just like this one, is multiple reasonable guesses, each built on slightly different assumptions about exactly how aggressively Toyota wants to compete in this specific segment. This could genuinely be a risky move for Toyota, either way they ultimately decide to go, honestly. Because if they price this truck too high, chasing that premium positioning strategy, they risk losing exactly the budget-conscious buyers who made the Maverick such a genuine phenomenon in the first place. But if they price it too aggressively low instead, they risk genuinely cannibalizing their own Tacoma sales, creating internal competition that quietly hurts profitability across their already successful broader truck lineup. Toyota's margin for error here is honestly quite small, and getting this single pricing decision right might genuinely matter more than any individual feature or styling choice on this entire truck. Stay with me, because there's also a genuinely important timing story here that deserves real attention, separate from the pricing conversation entirely, because multiple sources genuinely agree the Stout was originally on track for an earlier debut, potentially as a 2025 or 2026 model, and that timeline has genuinely slipped. Some reporting attributes this delay specifically to Toyota shifting internal focus toward addressing sales performance concerns with the Tacoma, its existing flagship mid-sized truck. Other reporting simply describes Toyota deciding that good wasn't good enough, wanting this truck to feel genuinely polished the moment it hits the road, rather than launching something they'd spend years quietly fixing afterward. And honestly, both of those explanations can genuinely be true simultaneously, and they both point toward the same underlying pattern. Toyota doesn't rush. And that pattern, honestly, is worth appreciating rather than resenting. Because Toyota would rather take the extra time, refine every detail, and launch something genuinely polished than push out something half-finished purely to compete with Ford's head start. And when you look at how methodically Toyota handled the redesigned Tacoma, the trims, the genuine attention paid to real owner feedback, there's a strong argument that this same patience could genuinely pay off here too. But here's the honest downside worth sitting with as well. New rivals like the Ram Rampage and Chevy Montana are genuinely moving fast, each one chasing their own slice of this exact compact truck opportunity. If Toyota wants to reclaim genuine momentum in this space, they'll need to get this truck into showrooms before too much of that competitive window closes. And if the delay drags on further, genuinely risking a slip past the current 2027 target window entirely into 2028, that risks turning the Stout into exactly the kind of long-anticipated vehicle that quietly loses momentum, the kind where everyone's patience genuinely runs out before the first test drive ever happens. Now let's talk honestly about the competitive landscape, because understanding exactly what the Stout is walking into genuinely matters for evaluating whether it can actually succeed. The Ford Maverick remains the genuine sales leader and the benchmark for this entire segment, offering a wide range of configurations and a proven hybrid system that's already earned real buyer loyalty over several years on the market. It has faced some recall activity worth factoring into any purchase decision, but overall buyer sentiment around it remains genuinely strong. The Hyundai Santa Cruz brings real style and a more car-like driving dynamic to the table, appealing to buyers who want lifestyle appeal over pure utility. And Toyota's own Tacoma still genuinely dominates in midsize capability, meaning the Stout needs to stay clearly differentiated from it, so it doesn't simply cannibalize sales from its own more expensive sibling. One of the trickier balancing acts Toyota's product planners genuinely have to navigate carefully with this entire launch. Where the Stout could genuinely win comes down to Toyota's core strengths as a company. Brand equity built over decades, a genuinely mature, trusted hybrid system with proven reliability across millions of vehicles. Toyota's dealer network, one of the largest and most established in the entire industry. And Toyota's long-standing reputation for strong resale value, something that genuinely factors into total cost of ownership in a way flashy features simply can't replicate. If the Stout inherits even a fraction of that long-term reliability reputation from the rest of Toyota's lineup, it genuinely enters this segment with a level of buyer trust that most competitors simply haven't earned yet, no matter how good their specific product happens to be. Where it might genuinely struggle comes down to pricing discipline and timing, the two themes we've already spent considerable time on. Toyota has to resist premium creep if it genuinely wants to undercut the Tacoma and compete with the Maverick on real value. And every month this launch slips further, competitors get more time to deepen their own market position and buyer loyalty. So, pulling all of this together, what's our honest, genuinely balanced take here? After walking through everything currently known and speculated about this truck, the 2027 Toyota Stout represents a genuinely smart, carefully considered response to a segment Toyota entered far too late in the game. Reviving a name with genuine heritage behind it, rather than launching something brand new with zero history attached, gives this truck a genuine story that resonates with buyers in a way an entirely new nameplate simply couldn't replicate on its own. The expected hybrid powertrain built on RAV4, proven technology, the genuinely practical unibody platform, the modern tech-forward interior, and Toyota's long-standing reputation for reliability and strong resale value all add up to a genuinely compelling package, at least on paper right now. At the same time, we're genuinely not going to pretend every single detail here is locked in, because it simply isn't. A huge portion of this truck's real-world success is ultimately going to come down to whether Toyota nails the pricing strategy somewhere in that genuinely competitive range, whether the launch timeline actually holds somewhere around 2027 rather than slipping further into 2028, and whether the more dramatic powertrain claims circulating online, that GR Sport performance variant, that 320 horsepower plug-in hybrid, actually materializes described, or turn out to be optimistic extrapolation that never quite reaches production the way enthusiasts are currently hoping. If this actually launches the way the strongest, most consistent reporting suggests, genuine RAV4 level hybrid efficiency beating the Maverick, real interior quality that finally matches or exceeds a premium SUV cabin, Toyota's reliability fully backing the whole package, and pricing that can genuinely compete with the Maverick head-to-head, it's game over for the current compact truck hierarchy as we know it today. Toyota wouldn't just quietly join the competition here. It would very likely reshape the entire segment within just a few short years, forcing Ford, Hyundai, Ram, and Chevrolet to all respond immediately or risk falling behind in a segment that's growing faster than almost anyone originally predicted back when the Maverick first launched. And that's exactly why people simply cannot stop paying attention to a truck that Toyota still hasn't officially confirmed with a locked spec sheet, a locked price, or a locked release date. There's something genuinely compelling about watching a legendary manufacturer circle back toward a name and an entire segment it deliberately walked away from decades ago, and quietly deciding the time has finally come to compete for real, on its own terms, rather than rushing to simply copy what Ford already built. And this is why Smart Reviews is keeping such a close eye on this story, right through whatever official reveal eventually confirms or corrects everything we've walked through today. So here's an honest question worth genuinely sitting with before we wrap up. Given everything we've covered, the genuinely grounded hybrid efficiency story, alongside the more speculative performance and plug-in variants that may or may not actually exist, which version of this truck would genuinely get you into a Toyota dealership? The practical, efficiency-focused base hybrid that could beat the Maverick on fuel economy? Or would you only genuinely be tempted by the more dramatic, unconfirmed possibilities, the GR Sport performance trim or the plug-in hybrid variant, if Toyota actually delivers on them? Let us know exactly where you stand down in the comments, because we're genuinely, honestly curious where this audience lands on this question. Subscribe to Smart Reviews if you want clear, honest breakdowns of every major truck story before everyone else catches up to it. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, do us a favor and hit that like button too. It genuinely helps this channel keep bringing you coverage exactly like this one. Thanks for watching Smart Reviews. We'll see you in the next video.